So what is the role of church now in a secular type culture?
Yeah. Church has to, first of all, just not accept that all of this was good, this process of revolt against nature and against authority. But church needs to accept that that's the battlefield now, rather than, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, do you think that most people have their finger on that?
No, I think that there's a combination of two things at the same time, and they're both fairly inarticulate. They get articulated to me personally as I talk to people in the church, which is a fairly broad exposure around our country, is the two inarticulate things. One is complete mystification as to what happened. Mm-hmm. And I get that most often from, if I can say it this way, normal people. They have no idea what happened. The church used to be full and now it's not. They honestly don't know what happened. Mm-hmm. They have not inside the church been given a vocabulary for everyday life decisions that spiral into, my grandkids have never even been into a church. Mm-hmm. They don't know how that might be connected to education or family or anything. It's just all like, the church was full. I always brought my kids to church. Now nobody goes. I don't get it. Right?
I think it's from the 50s. For every one person we convert, we lose 6. And whenever I talk about that statistic, it's like pushing home, that's not normal. Like the Christian church didn't out-survive, multiple civilizations over the course of 1,500 years.
No.
Like that's never been the case. So that's brand new.
That's not how people live.
Yeah.
I mean, my folks are both from Western Pennsylvania originally. So I had to be a Steelers fan growing up, but I grew up in Central Pennsylvania. It's not really Pittsburgh territory at all. I'm a Pittsburgh everything fan. I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. That's why? Because my parents were. Mm-hmm. It's not normal for you to be like, well, my parents are Pittsburgh Pirates fans. I think I love the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
That's not normal. TV told you that, or you're just being weird. But it's not normal for people to grow up one way and be completely different.
Yeah.
That's why if we're going to talk about, well, the way that we're going to save our church or our school or whatever is just by converting giant numbers of people, it just doesn't statistically happen.
I get very turned off, and maybe at some point I could be swayed. I'm 32, but it seems like there's this hyper push for evangelism.
Yeah.
To where like the response is, we're losing 6-1. Most of them are our own kids.
Yeah.
So like maybe the answer is let's quit talking about theology, or like let's quit rooting down the creeds and all of these kind of foundational things which have been lost, but rather like everyone get out there and go talk to your neighbors and go pass things,
Yeah, pass things out. Yeah.
And it feels like we're being evangelized because we're sending people out that are not properly prepared. They're not learning it in the household. They're not getting proper education. They're not getting proper teaching in the church. These are not habits in the household. And the only news we have for them is like, God loves you, and now like go tell 10 people about it, and go be like a door-to-door salesman for the church. And if that's a little bit of that's an overstatement for, but if you do that, that's a recipe for disaster.
I don't think it's an overstatement, because if I were doing, let's say, something that still often does door-to-door sales is like home solar panels. Mm-hmm. If you were going to sell home solar panels, guess what? You would probably know more than 2 things about solar panels. Mm-hmm. You would be like this solar panel theology nerd. Mm-hmm. Okay, where are they made? What are they made out of? How does this relate to my electricity bill? If I want to get off grid, how many panels do I need? If I just want to pay back into the grid, how many panels do I need? You have to know all that stuff. We take people who are maybe less catechized than they've ever been before, because that's old-fashioned, or that's boring, or that's whatever, right? And then we send them out, and they're like, they just know that they're supposed to tell people to buy solar panels. They don't know anything else about solar panels.
Yeah, we had it was a district I was in previously, but I remember we had this guy did this on a couple occasions. But at one point we had this like real articulate apologist come in. He was from a big city, and he came over and he gave this like really good lecture. And this guy stood up at the end, and he's like, well, I've always said I can summarize the Bible in 4 words: we sin and God saves. And like it completely undermined the whole point where this guy was talking about like knowing your stuff, knowing like what is creation, like what is proper order, what is the good, the true, and the beautiful, and all these things. And he completely missed the point. He's like, I can summarize the book, the entire Bible, in 4 words. It's like, well, if God could have done it in 4 words, he would have done it in 4 words, but he did it in a lot more than that. So
66 books.
Yeah, but it's that kind of notion that let me go spend 8 hours a week studying my biology class.
Yeah.
And let me just memorize those 4 words for Christianity. It's like, if you take Christianity this seriously and think it's this deep,
right,
then your just biology course is
exactly
100-fold more serious.
That's right.
Which one's the college kid going to take more seriously? I'm going to say, that was fun going to VBS when I was a kid, but like now I've moved on to serious business. I got to go save the world, by being an engineer.
Right.
Exactly. And
yeah. So it's that is inarticulate, and the answer that we give to people is we just don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about why it happens. And that the more deeply you are indoctrinated into anything, especially when you're a kid, the more likely you're going to retain it when you're older.
Mm-hmm.
I'm free to not care about what's happening with the NFL. I don't. But if somebody was ever like, are you a Baltimore Ravens fan? I'd be like, no. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's deeply ingrained, right? And that's just the way human beings are. That's an observation about nature, not just about indoctrination into Christianity.